Hey, Grace Auburn family, welcome back to the Grace Auburn Church podcast. We are continuing on in a series that we jump in and out of very often, or as often as is needed, to introduce people who are new to our staff team to the church family. Depending on your area of involvement in the church, whether you have kids, don't have kids, whether your kids are grown and out of the house, or you have students in student ministry, or you're a college student and you're trying to find ways to connect in the life of this church, you may not naturally rub shoulders with everyone on our staff team, especially those who are new. And so I want to welcome Anna Grayce Smith here to the podcast today. Welcome.
Happy to be here.
Okay. All right. We, again, the effort in these podcasts really serves two primary goals. One would be to introduce you to anyone who may not know them yet, or may not know you yet, or introduce, if anybody's listening to other episodes in the Why Would You Work for a Church, or Why Do You Want to Work for the Church podcast series within the Grace Auburn podcast. It really serves as a way of introducing you, letting you tell some of your story, letting people who don't yet know you get to know you. But then really the hope is to also shine a light on the work of the church, knowing that you, like so many people on our staff team, have a very different background than working within the church. Why this now, how the Lord led you to this place to come on to our staff team, for you specifically serving in Grace Kids. So yeah, that's kind of that's the roadmap of where we're going. But while I let you take it away, could you kind of jump in, tell you and Drew's story, how you guys came into the church, how you came into Grace Auburn specifically, but go back as far as you want to, start wherever you'd like, and I'll ask questions along the way. Take it away.
Sounds great. Well, I was raised in a Christian household by Christian parents. I've listened to several other podcasts, and, I heard a couple other people say that there pretty much wasn't a day I didn't know Jesus, which I'm super grateful for. That is a huge blessing in my life. I accepted Jesus as a child. I was 6.
Oh, wow.
So I think I was actually, my parents told this story, I was sick the day, and I slept through the sermon. Nice. And then I went down front and told the pastor that I wanted to join the church at 6 years old. So it was, kind of funny story. There was a joke about, someone's never slept through the sermon and then joined the church. So that was me as a 6-year-old.
That's good.
I was really involved as a child in the church. My parents were Sunday school teachers at the church that we went to. My grandparents were Sunday school teachers.
Okay, wow.
So it's kind of just a trend in the family.
Yeah.
So I was the kid that went to VBS at my home church and then VBS at my grandparents' church. Mm-hmm. So it was just a major part of my life. I went to elementary school at a Christian church, or Christian school, rather, that was affiliated with a church. Church.
Yeah.
And, Christ was a part of my life. From the get-go, pretty thoroughly, all the way up until middle school.
Okay.
And then we relocated, so school changed a little bit, but I stayed involved in church and youth group. I went to youth group at my family's church, and then youth group at a couple other churches in town because that sounded fun too.
All right, give some context in terms of relocated. Where were you? Where'd you grow up? Where did you relocate to?
Sure. Yeah, I was born in Gainesville, Florida.
Okay.
My dad was working at the University of Florida and getting his PhD.
Did you grow up a Florida fan?
I did not.
Good for you. Okay, carry on. Sorry, not relevant.
Both my parents are Auburn graduates.
Okay, so good. There we go.
They were there to get a PhD.
All right.
And then we lived outside of Atlanta from, the time I was 5 to about 14.
Okay.
And then we relocated here to Auburn when I was 14.
Okay, got it.
So my parents have been here since I was 14.
Yep.
I did high school and college here, and then I moved to Birmingham.
All right.
After college, and I worked as a nurse. So I graduated from Auburn with a nursing degree, worked at Children's of Alabama for, I think, about 7 years.
Okay.
So I was a pediatric operating room nurse.
Wow.
Children's.
Yes.
And I did that for a while. I also went back to school and got my master's at UAB and did pediatrics specifically for my master's, and worked as a nurse practitioner at Children's of Alabama.
Okay.
For a little while until Porter was born. So
Right.
obviously met Drew in there
That's bad.
at some point. So that kind of just
There is
went
an
all the way to Porter.
There is an order of things here, and
Yep.
Drew is a part of that. So let's go back to meeting Drew, getting married.
Yes.
Obviously, school was a part of that for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Drew and I met while we were both living in Birmingham. Drew went to Sanford, and he's from St. Louis,
Okay.
actually. So Missouri.
Yeah. Thanks for clarifying for people who are like, wait, where is St. Louis?
Where is St. Louis? I'd never been to St. Louis.
Not in
before I met
Alabama.
Drew. Yeah.
All right.
So he went to Sanford for undergrad and pharmacy school.
Okay.
And then, so we met when we were living in Birmingham. We worked at different hospitals, but we met. We dated for about a year and got engaged and then got married like 5 months later. So it was about a year and a half.
Okay.
And then, let's see, we had Porter like 3 years later.
All right.
And that's when I stopped working. It was after I had Porter.
Got it.
Because we had very opposite schedules
Yeah.
in the medical field.
Yeah.
I had been working 6 to 2:30, and he worked evening shift, and the days were different, and we just didn't want to pay for full-time childcare
Yeah, that's fair.
while we had opposite schedules. So I stayed home with Porter, and then when he was about 10 months old was when we moved back to Auburn.
Okay. All right.
So to be closer to family, and Drew got a job at the hospital here.
Okay. All right. Let's go back to Birmingham. You guys meet. He goes to grad school, becomes a pharmacist. You're in school and working in pediatrics. What was church life like for you guys in Birmingham? And then let's go from there to y'all getting connected here when you moved in or when y'all moved back to Auburn.
Yeah, so Drew had been going to a different church, and I had been trying to get into Brook Hills, I believe was
Yep.
the name of the church where David Platt
Yep.
was before he left and went to IBM.
Yep.
IMB?
IMB. Yeah. And then now he's lead pastor at McLean.
Yes.
Yes.
So we were there. I was living closer to downtown because of work. And so it was about a 30-minute drive out there. So we had been going there a good bit. Membership was a struggle for us there because it
Sure.
was such a thorough
Yes.
membership process
Yes.
at that particular church. It was multiple meetings
Yep. Yep.
over the weekend, and I would start the process, and I would get called into work because I was on call and my pager went off, or or I was out of town, and it was a struggle,
Sure.
honestly, for us getting plugged into membership and therefore feeling like seen,
Yeah.
essentially,
Yeah.
there. So we loved it. We loved the preaching style. We liked what we were learning, but the community for us
Sure.
wasn't there in a way that we were hoping for. So that was very important to us when we looked for a church when we moved to Auburn.
Okay. So you moved to Auburn when?
Beginning of 2019.
Back in 19, you land. Obviously, COVID hits.
Mm-hmm.
What is y'all? So moving back to Auburn, and obviously I'm not from Auburn, but I've heard moving home after being gone for a while, although you bounced around a lot growing up, but Auburn feeling like home, what was coming back like? Obviously, you came back in 2019. You guys are moving back with Drew's job at the hospital. What was that process like for you in terms of, obviously, you're still at home at that point? You're working at all, not working at all?
Not much, no.
Not at that point. But obviously, keeping your license, doing all the things. You moved back in 2019. What was that process like coming back to Auburn, looking for a church, looking for community in the midst of COVID? When did you guys find Grace Auburn? All of that story.
Yeah, so moving back here was still home for me because my parents are still here.
Right.
Which I think a lot of people, if they went to college and then maybe moved away and then came back, maybe if they weren't here a whole bunch, it
Sure.
might have felt different. I was gone for 7 years, but I was also here
Right.
a lot
Right.
for 7 years.
Right.
So the changes didn't feel very huge at the time. 'Cause
Okay.
I was just kind of used to seeing the progress that Auburn had been going through those 7 years, and it's still happening.
Still continue.
Yeah. And so, it wasn't that different for
Okay.
me coming back. Luckily, I already knew a lot about, the area, so I knew, where to look for a house or
Sure.
like what part of town we wanted to live in or, different schools that we were interested in. So I came in with kind of baseline knowledge
Sure.
that I think was really quite helpful. We found a house. We bought a house on Porter's first birthday.
Hey,
so that was
that's exciting.
Yeah, a fun time for us. And we found him a school pretty quickly that was close by. We did end up kind of church hopping for a while because we really enjoyed the style of preaching that we had been getting in Birmingham with the expository style, verse by verse, like what does the Bible say? So we were looking for that. And I remember we had been to several places and everything was good, but it just didn't feel like the one, like it was it. And I had actually had a conversation with a friend from Auburn. I was working at what I call KCC, so Kids Close Connection. It's a place that I volunteer. I may talk about it later. It's KCC season. So I was volunteering there, and I had spoken with a friend from college that I ran into her on a shift there, and she said, well, have you tried Grace Auburn? And I was like, well, no. I'd seen the sign, but I didn't know anything about it. I saw it on Glenn. She's like, well, it's, Matt Dean, who used to do, I think it was Encounter. Is that the name that it was?
Right.
Back on campus. So Encounter ended right before I started.
Okay.
So I never got to experience Encounter, but all of my friends that were any older than me, that's all they ever talked about.
It was this legendary thing that
and so
was a myth to you.
I heard Matt Dean was in China.
Yeah.
And so that's what I knew of.
Okay.
Encounter was great. A lot of my friends, respected Matt Dean.
Very cool.
And so I showed up that day. Drew and I showed up that day with Porter. And we walked out saying, this feels right. This felt authentic. We liked the style of preaching. We liked that, they were praying for, the world, different people groups. I think that first day, Noelle Dean found me and came and sat in my lap. And I was like, I don't know who this child is, but she is really sweet.
But she is sweet.
She welcomed us very sweetly into the church. And it was really funny because I had no idea who she was at the time.
That's hilarious.
And then when I figured it out later, I was like, okay, so clearly people were keeping an eye on her and knew what was up. So that was really funny. And then I think it was either the first day or a few days after that, I met Sarah and Caleb Farrow.
Okay.
And Sarah put her, name and number in my phone. Sarah Farrow, Grace Auburn.
Was this at Kids Closing Connection? Because she also loves KCC.
This was all at church.
Oh, this was all at church. Wow.
That first day or two.
Oh, no way. Okay.
Yeah.
So you get to hold Noelle.
Yeah. Noelle
was not a baby and yet was in your lap.
Yep.
Okay.
She was hanging out with us. And Sarah Farrow, all within if it wasn't the first week, it was the first week or two.
So good.
So those were our first connections.
All right. So how long had you been back? Y'all moved in 2019 on Porter's first birthday.
Yeah.
Or you bought a house on his first birthday.
Yeah.
How long did it take you guys to find Grace Auburn?
I think we moved at the end of winter.
Okay.
We bought the house in May.
Okay.
And I think we were here by the fall.
Okay.
So it was a couple months. I mean, it wasn't immediately, but a couple
not long.
months.
Okay.
No, it wasn't super long because we were members by the winter.
Okay.
And then Porter was dedicated right before we shut down for COVID.
Yes.
He was one of the first baby dedications.
I love that.
And so that would have been January of 2020.
Okay. Wow, that feels like a lifetime ago.
It does.
All right, so 2020, you guys become members. Obviously, COVID hits. We do all the things that everyone had to do during COVID. We come out of that summer, going into the fall. Maybe just a little bit of the background and y'all's story on your involvement at Grace Auburn, community groups, serving, all the things. And we'll get into your new role now. But I'd love to just hear how your kind of progression into the life of the church happened and how that landed for y'all.
Yeah, so early on, I guess probably from meeting Caleb and Sarah, we were in their community group for a while when it was just Judah and Porter before Elsie and Eliza were around. And so that was fun. They were, the little guys, the small group, and it was us and the Glee Makers and the Gordons and some college kids.
Yeah.
And so it was a really sweet time, getting to know some of the, early families in the church. And then COVID hit and things got weird. But Eliza happened in 21. She was born. So a little after the big, COVID concern. And then she was not a fan of the nursery. So I was also in the nursery a lot when Eliza was in the nursery. And so that was really when I probably stepped into that role a good bit, was because I was in there with Eliza.
You
so
had no
everyone wouldn't hear her screaming
yes.
in the sanctuary. So we did that for a while. And then Drew, and then of course Porter loved greeting.
Yes, they do.
Porter's great at it.
He is great at it.
So he doesn't meet a stranger. And we love that about him. So yeah, I was quickly involved with kids because of my kids.
Yep.
And then it kind of just built over time.
Okay.
The last couple of years, I had been leading the 1st through 3rd grade chaos that happens in that room.
Yeah.
Controlled chaos. Just because it's a lot of kids.
Yes.
Now, not because they're badly behaved. They're
No.
great, wonderful kids. It's just a lot of kids.
Yeah.
Which we're grateful for. Porter is in 2nd grade now, so they said they needed help in that room.
Okay.
So I said
Yes.
yes to that room. And then I guess as we were preparing to move to this building, I knew there would be lots of prep work and moving and transition and setup. So I was here a good bit over the summer during the transition and the move. Just to try and take a few things off of Leah and Sarah's plate, because I knew they were doing their job on top of all things relocating.
Yes.
So it was fun getting to be up here and see the process and the transition and what things were going to look like ahead of walking in the door that first Sunday.
Yeah. Oh, man, yes. The transition to this building, I could talk for hours just about you and so many people who just showed up. It's like, hey, what can we do to help with no job description? You're not paid. Like, just, hey, we love this church. We love you guys. How can we help? What can we do? How can we serve? I'm available. I've got 2 hours, or I've got this, or I've got whatever. So thank you for seeing that need, meeting that need. Al Mohler has said for a long time now, and I've heard him say it numerous times, whether it be in sermons or it be in his daily news podcast called The Briefing, that you can look at the status of a church's nursery and very quickly see whether or not it's healthy or not. And he makes this one-for-one connection between a growing nursery is evidence of health, vibrancy, and life in a church. And I would say consistently across the board, regardless of denomination, I 100% agree with that. And so your new role, stepping in to Grace Kids and onto the Grace Kids team as another coordinator, coming alongside of Sarah, serving with Leah in that team, really is a testimony to the Lord's faithfulness to bring so many young families into the life of this church. Y'all's family is obviously a part of that. Your story of not only finding yourself in a place where the preaching was consistently based on the Word of God and that it felt authentic, which are two just incredible compliments to a young church plant trying to say, hey, we want to preach the Bible here, and we want people to know one another, and we want our kids to want to be here, even if Eliza did not want to be here, unless she was with you, which turns out was maybe a doorway that you didn't know that you were going to walk into vocationally down the road. But it is amazing, and I would say people who don't experience Grace Kids on a Sunday morning, it is amazing to watch what happens upstairs at Skyway Drive. I mean, it was always phenomenal. And we could tell long stories of Grace Kids at 720 East Glen that had to roll into the chamber, and how we used both of those buildings, and how we basically put a classroom in every single space possible. Mm-hmm. But then coming into this building, we recognized, essentially the whole upstairs, minus a shelled off corner of the building, was going to be used for kids. And I remember telling people that our new space for children at Skyway Drive, footprint-wise, is bigger than the entire building at 720 East Glen. They were like, do y'all really need that much space for kids? And I remember going, yes,
we do.
100% need that amount of space for our children and for the work that is going on up here, and just the incredibly vibrant ministry that my kids are a part of, that my kids experience, that we as a family are blessed by. So when the idea of coming on staff with Grace Auburn came up for you, I'd love to hear you talk about and maybe even tell the story of, all right, Lord, what do you want in this season for our family? What do you want from us? What do you want of me? And what are you asking and inviting me into? And then really kind of, I'd love for you to just roll right into, I joke with my wife, who is a nurse, that once a nurse, always a nurse, that no nurse is ever going to give her, credentials up and never should, right? So still, that is a part of your life, but really stepping into a more vocational pivot into this world. Walk us through that story in terms of seeing a need, meeting a need last summer to where we are today.
Yeah. So Lacey probably knows, you don't want to give up your nursing credentials. So that is something that I still have and I still do, and I still do that part-time.
Yeah.
The great thing about nursing is the way I'm running that right now is PRN.
Yep.
In nursing lingo, that's basically like contracting roles.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of those side jobs that I do keep in my back pocket. And when they call, I try to say yes if it works out.
Sure.
And fits in my schedule. So I have 2 of those jobs in addition. But as Eliza, she is now 4. Porter will be 8 in May. The kids are back in school. She still does like a half-day program. But I was getting to the point where I was ready for more work. And I had started working as a substitute school nurse for the city schools, which I'm still doing. When, the need arises, they call me. And if it fits in my schedule, then I try to say yes.
Yeah.
But I knew I was ready for more. But with Drew's job, he works at the hospital and he has kind of different hours that are outside of normal business hours. I knew that my primary, goal was still, family.
Yeah.
That was my job and my role, and I'm happy to do that. I want to be there for my kids. I want to take them to school in the morning and be there for them to get off the bus at the end of the day. So, we were kind of praying through that. Like, what does the next season look like? Is it time for me to go back to work? Or, what else are we doing? We were kind of not really sure, praying that we felt like something was moving and shifting. We also were kind of feeling like maybe it was time to step into a different role at the church. Like, is it being a community group leader? Is it going to the foster training that is happening this spring? Is it, just saying yes to more Sundays a month? Like, what is it?
Right.
We weren't really sure. But we really enjoyed the marriage conference that was, the beginning of January.
Yeah.
And so all of that was happening. We felt like something was moving, shifting. We were praying. We weren't really sure what it was. And then I saw Sarah at the marriage conference, and I had a random conversation, and I said, I don't know if y'all, are going to need any more help.
Right.
Kids is still growing. I mean, obviously they're doing a great job with it, but it keeps growing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if, during the summer, if they need time off, or if somebody's going to be out for an extended period for whatever reason, it would be hard to probably be a one-person job.
Yeah, for sure.
So Drew was right next to me, and I said that to Sarah, and I said, I don't really know what that looks like, but if y'all need more help, put me on the list.
Yeah, that's good.
Is pretty much what I said to Sarah, and I could see Sarah kind of have this light bulb moment. Okay, I'll tell Leah. And so I think it was a week and a half later, Leah texted me on a Thursday and said, call me if you have a free minute. And Drew was already at home. I said, Leah's calling, and which is funny because Drew and Leah used to work together.
Oh, that's right.
At the hospital.
That's right.
They are both pharmacists.
That's
and
exactly
so
right.
I was like, okay, well, I'll call Leah. So I called her, and she said, do you want to work for the church?
Yeah.
And I said, okay, tell me more. And so I was pretty excited about it, and heard what she had to say. And I mean, it was a pretty quick yes in my heart, in my head.
Sure.
Of course, I said, let me go talk to Drew. He's in the kitchen. And so she's like, okay, no rush. And so we took the weekend to pray about it. And I called a few people, in the church, and I said, what do you think?
Right.
Are there questions I should ask?
Yeah.
Anything else that I need to think of before I just say yes?
Right.
It seems easy.
Sure.
And so I had a couple things to think about, and it was still a pretty easy yes.
Yeah.
So it was a really cool moment. I mean, I actually was sitting at the kitchen table updating my resume when Leah
That's good.
texted me that, because I was like, looking for the next thing. What is it,
Right.
Lord? And, Drew and I had even prayed, I think it was the week before, Lord, if it's not nursing, like, that's fine.
Yeah.
Like, give me open hands. Just see whatever it is that you have in store for us. If it's nursing, great.
Yeah.
We'll figure that out. And if it's not, that's okay too.
That's good. We, coming into Skyway Drive, obviously part of my role was thinking through not only what does our current team need, but how does our team need to grow? How does it need to change? How are we constantly having to ask the question or answer the question, God, how can we best serve the people of Grace Auburn, both that are here now and that will be coming into our membership? And so I don't remember when it was having conversations with Jeff and then with Leah in I'm going to say right before Christmas, going, okay, Lord, we're looking at budget season. We obviously just approved a budget. We're going into the new year, and the kids team, several other parts of our church staff team are going to need to grow if this continues in this direction. And here we are. So I think that for them, Sarah and Leah have done such an amazing job, not only with what the work they do, but in really growing a culture of children's ministry that is that is parent-driven. And when they came to me and Jeff and were sharing, hey, we can continue doing what we're doing, but we would love to bring somebody else in to this team. It was a no-brainer for me because I'm looking at the load they're carrying, and I'm looking at both of them also being part-time and saying, okay, yes, 1,000% yes. So from the outside, we didn't have a lot of conversation. It was just, y'all tell me when you're ready and tell me who you think it needs to be. And as soon as we got into the year, it was, hey, we're ready, and we think it should be Anna Grayce. And I'm like, well, start those conversations. And it did feel like, while there had been a lot of prayer and prep on the backside of it for us, it was a very no-brainer in terms of your involvement, the way you have served already so faithfully for so long. So it's really exciting. I'd love for you just to kind of end with, in light of those two things, right? Like, you're prepping your resume. God, I'm ready to go do whatever it is that you would have for me. What kind of final words would you share just in terms of, this job being put on the table and any other job that you could have gotten because of your experience and because of what you've done in the nursing world? Why this versus that? Why work for the church? Why in the world would you want to do this versus go back into, let's say, the hospital or full-time in a clinic or anything like that?
Yeah, I think, the Lord made it pretty evident based on the circumstances and just how it felt like an easy yes. He opened that door for us in a season where, we felt like we had a couple of priorities in our life where, Drew's job is this, and I got to do the kids, and, we want to do this family first thing, but, how do we do all those things well? And, we felt like more involvement at the church was kind of on our heart as well. And it just kind of seemed like the perfect culmination of all of those things in one. And then having talked with Leah and Sarah and knowing them, knowing who they are, I felt like I could easily work with them.
Yeah.
It seemed like a great team to be a part of.
Yeah.
And, when we come to church, we enjoy being here.
That's good.
And, it's just, it's fun to be at work. It's fun to be, it's fun to be, in a place that, knows you and cares about you. And, you can make real relationships with people. And, it's a beautiful thing to get to tell these kids about Jesus.
Yeah.
And hopefully capture their hearts and
lead
them in that path, from a young age, because that was my experience. And I know the Lord probably spared me from a lot of other things that could have happened in my life had it not been for him. Yeah. And if we can, see these kids, at this age and, truly show them who Jesus is. Yeah. That's the goal. And, what other job would be better than that, right?
Well, we are incredibly honored to have you on our team. I know Sarah and Leah are incredibly grateful to have you joining it. I tell people as many times as I possibly can that call from our network or from other churches in town that are asking about kids ministry and I tell Leah this consistently, it's like, I don't know what the secret sauce is, so to speak, to what they're doing, but if I could bottle it and sell it and give it to church planters, it would be gold, because there is such a genuine love and care for families and for kids, and just an ease about which they carry out the roles that they've been given and that you have now stepped into. And so they're a gift, and I think you being on their team adds just an incredible layer to how can we continue to come along parents and the discipleship of their children. How can we love them on Sundays and throughout the week? And then obviously with things like Grace Games coming up this summer.
Yes.
So many fun things. So we're honored to have you, and we're honored to have Drew on our team in that capacity as well. So yeah, thanks for sharing your story. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
On behalf of the Grace Auburn Church family, thank you for listening to the Grace Auburn Church podcast. If you'd like more information about partnering with us in our mission or ways that you can get connected, please go to our website, graceauburn.church.